Our guest today is the Illinois State Comptroller. She has served as Comptroller for the past 19 months. Our guest today is the first woman in Illinois history to be elected State Treasurer. She is the first woman re-elected to a statewide office. Our guest today is the first woman to be elected to 2 constitutional offices. She is a champion taxpayer watchdog. She lives in Riverside, Illinois, and is the proud grandmother of Alexandra. Ladies and gentlemen, the Illinois State Comptroller, Judy Baar Topinka. Judy?
Wait a minute, let me get my stuff. Well, thank you. Ooh, ho, 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 ho. There we go. Golly, is this thing twisted up? Needs medical attention here, I tell you. It's just all good. Well, thank you very much. I appreciated that, Jay. Great introduction. Certainly it's great to be here today. Certainly to be able to sit with my former chairman at the RTA. I miss you guys, all of you at the RTA table. I know you're here because you want money. Yeah. That's okay. Doesn't seem much. Anyway, it gives me a chance to speak to all of you, and not just the poor souls who are stuck at the table and having to listen to me here. Certainly, every time I get an introduction like that, which is so nice, and I want you to know, although I'm the proud bubby, no less, a busha, if you will, of my granddaughter, Alexandra Faith Baar Topinka, it comes from my wonderful son, Joe, who is a major in the United States Army, and his wife, Christina. Normally, when these introductions happen, they sound somewhat like a eulogy. Here, it sounds more like a pre-sentencing agreement here. Some of the great speakers who've been here are now serving time, so I'm just, all excited about being here, anyway. But we are, and I'm glad you all came out. I really didn't expect this much of a turnout, because I figure everybody who talks about the state budget or listening about the state budget, it might sound like a dull topic. It might be like reading the telephone book or something like that. It really is an exciting topic, and I must tell you, I have very much enjoyed doing the fiscal offices here for the state of Illinois, at least trying to fix things and try and clean things up. I am a fiscal janitor, if you will, and jeepers, too bad I couldn't have been governor. It would have been so much easier to start from the top down than the bottom up. But one way or another, I'll get there, all right? So today we're going to talk about this so exciting topic, the state budget. Now, it's not a thrill a second, I agree, but I want you to know that if you break it down, as you're sitting here, every second we are spending $1,335. So hold your breath, because it's your money and it's ticking off, okay? Knowing you would want the numbers, I actually checked on our financial situation just before heading over. It's a great way to diet, just look at the numbers. That makes me sick and I don't eat. So, I can report that we have 144,825 unpaid vouchers in the queue. All right, now actually that's down a little bit. We were about 300,000 about a week or two ago. Now that totals more than $3.4 billion. That's just what's showing. I really don't even know what the agencies have out there, because the way the system works, they don't tell me. And then it's surprise, okay? And then these things come piling down because they don't want to send the bills down, because once it gets to the controller's office, they're subject to the Prompt Payment Penalty Act, which means they have to pay 12% interest. So they tuck them away up there and then kind of slip them to you when you're not looking. If this is a balanced budget, folks, I don't think this state, constitutional amendment notwithstanding, we've never had a balanced budget. This thing is so out of whack, and that's why we're in trouble today. As you may have seen, the Civic Federation came out today with an estimate today predicting that the state's going to end its fiscal year at $8.3 billion in the hole. Now, they arrived at that number by taking the bill backlog, then adding on other liabilities, including Medicaid debt, the Health Insurance Reserve Fund, and corporate tax refunds. And I know that Lawrence Massal, whom I adore, and I think the Civic Federation is so wonderful, had to be looking at our stuff because the numbers are exactly the same as we said we would have. And we started saying this in April of this year. So you know it gives credence to our numbers. So if we tell you those numbers are such, no one is fudging. Now you're going to wish by the time I get through that we were fudging because you're not going to want to hear all these things. In fact, I held a press conference on April 28th where I laid out the same $8.3 billion number. So wherever you hear numbers like that, you need to keep in mind that the totals can vary a little bit. So you're going to hear little changes here and there. And it all depends on what's taken into account and what you're counting and what estimates are at any given time. But the point is the same after we get through with everything, that Illinois is in the red. That is for sure. That I can guarantee you. It is in the red. And it's no great mystery on how we got here. You know, this gives you new faith in bipartisanship. You know what's going on in Congress, which just disgusts me, that no one can get together and make everything happen and clean everything up and work out something to make the government go forward. We've been very bipartisan in this state. I mean, we have spent on both counts, both parties, and gotten us into this hole. So, you know, I mean, it's delightful. Our condition today is the result of irresponsible spending, skip payments. Thank you, Rod Blagojevich. You can't go, well, I can't say that. I was going to, then my staff goes crazy if I say something about his going to jail. I see it got postponed. Too bad. Okay. Reckless borrowing, unfunded programs, short-sighted budgeting, fund raids, another Blagojevich deal, hit that pension fund, take the money and run, missed pension payments, inflated revenue estimates, lack of planning, and a whole lot of kicking the can down the road. In other words, why even bother with it? We're going to declare a balanced budget. We're going home. Everybody writes it off, and here we are. So we overspent, and when times were good, and we have had some good times, nobody socked it away. I've always been a great advocate of a rainy day fund. Well, that got spent right out of the box, and it's been so gone. If we're doing eulogies, that would be a good one right there for the rainy day fund. And as tempting as it would be for me to blame one party or another, you know, we all carry the blame on this. You know, the truth is it's not so simple. Everybody was involved here. Both parties created the problems because it's just hard when you're, you know, a politician. You want to make nice on people, so you create initiatives, you have photo ops, the money comes, the money goes, it's someone else's money, it's so easy. Well, not anymore. So this is why I was heartened to see the cooperation this time around between Speaker Madigan and Leader Cross on the budget this year. They did get together and they made something work. By working together, I think they came up with a much needed and realistic revenue forecast than has ever been in the past. It was for real. And as you know, if those two can do it, there just may be hope for Washington yet. But, well, probably not, but a girl can dream, you know? We'll see what we can do. But back to the point, given that we are billions in debt, our taxes, and I'm sure you all know this, we had the single biggest tax increase in the history of the state of Illinois, 67%. Okay, unemployment is at 9.9%. You gotta be thinking, well, we've already hit rock bottom. Not so, not so. Honestly, I'm afraid there are just more difficult times ahead. The Federal Reserve Chairman warned last week that there is a significant downside risk to the U.S. economy, and his words continue to hang with me because now it's kind of like a 50-50 shot. Are we going to go into a double-dip recession? And I have to tell you, if we go into that double-dip recession, then Illinois is going to have a real problem because we have no fallback position, none. I mean, this is where we're at, and that's what it is. I'm no gambler, but I know those are lousy odds, and it makes me very, very nervous. On a national level and here at home, I think we're seeing some ominous signs that we are heading back into that recession. And I can unequivocally tell you that Illinois just cannot handle it, and we'd have serious consequences. Unfortunately, I think we're holding our breath right now, and that's just really kind of where it is. Our housing market, particularly in Chicagoland, has not bounced back. The stock market, you saw last week, it was all over the place. And the erratic nature of just what business can expect keeps them from hiring. If people aren't hired, they don't make money. If they don't make money, they don't pay their taxes. If they don't pay their taxes, I have no money to pay bills. It just goes around in a big circle. It's when you look at the stock market, that's about at the 1,100 mark and holding. The unemployment is literally crippling the American dream here in Illinois. We're approaching double-digit unemployment again. And that is just so sad. I mean, I just look at houses as I amble around the state, and I see all the foreclosure signs and things of this sort, and have people calling the office, and they're hurting. It's really miserable out there. So none of these realities bode well for a state that can't pay its bills. In fact, we already are seeing the impact of rising unemployment on our tax revenues. That massive tax increase that was forecast to bring in approximately $500 million more in revenue fell about $60 million short because people can't pay it. So the money's not coming in. And rising unemployment's just going to make it worse. We estimate that every point of unemployment costs the state approximately $400 million in income tax revenue that we don't get. So if Illinois hits 12%, which is doable, it's a miserable number, but it is doable, 12%, if it hits that, we'd be looking at nearly $1 billion in lost revenue. That's pretty hard to run a state on that. That loss in revenue will coincide with an increased demand for social services. I know I've had Haymarket here and Harriet's house here, and I know you hurt. I know you're hurt because you're picking up the slack for the state. We're not doing our job, and all these folks are coming to you and saying, help me, and we're cutting your budgets. That's really great. So it'll coincide with an increased demand for social services. Medicaid's going to go up, and unemployment insurance is going to be another problem. So we're struggling to meet the demand for those services as it's given. Recent cuts in the budget for the Department of Human Services, Department of Children and Family Services. So we're in no position for any future setbacks, nor are our social service agencies who take care of the poor, the tired, the weak, the aged, everybody that the state does not take care of and should be taking care of. It's rough. So making matters worse, and I love this one, we still owe the federal government $2 billion from previous unemployment claims. And guess what? They want their money. They can all agree on that bipartisanly. They want their money. Well, it's not there. And if that all weren't bad enough, we need to accept the fact that it's unlikely Illinois will be getting any more subsidies from the federal government. They're just not going to be forthcoming. We collected about $1.2 billion in the last 2 years from the federal government's enhanced Medicaid match. But that's gone now too, okay? In fact, it's likely that Medicaid will be one of the places that the federal government cuts. And if they cut too much, are we going to make up the difference, or are we going to just toss people to the wolves? Not a nice prospect. Cutting our reimbursement rate would truly devastate our ability to be able to fund health care for the poor. We simply have no resources to fall back on. So all states have been hit hard by this recession, but Illinois, because of bad choices in the past, has fared worse than most, and it's probably among the least prepared to be able to deal with further economic downgrades. I think the only one really in competition right now is poor little Rhode Island. I happened to catch that over the weekend. You know, we've been in competition with Mississippi, we've been in competition with New Jersey. Now we're in competition with Rhode Island. That's too exciting. So what do we do? All right, because that should be the next logical question. You can carry on like this and tell you all the moaning and the groaning and the whining and whatever. What are we going to do? For starters, and I'm going to repeat this to you because anything I say has to be against a mural here that says no new spending, okay? Everything. If the legislature, the governor, and everybody else do not hear one other word from me, it's no new spending, okay? It's just, we have to hold spending flat and stay conservative in our revenue estimates. You know, the word no, and I'm not fond of it myself, but it does have a useful purpose. This is the time. The General Assembly, I think, did a relatively good job of this last spring. They have to hold it together again in the future. And the pressures are going to be hard for them to try and add money, to borrow money, to get money wherever they can. No new spending, okay? It has to stay flat. That's not exciting, but it has to stay flat. If by chance, now the economy should pick up, which would be a good thing, and we have more revenue than we expected, that would not only be a pleasant surprise, it should go directly into the payment of unpaid bills. That's where it needs to go. I think everybody thought that our tax increase was going to go there, but it went for pensions, it went for Medicaid. Didn't go to unpaid bills. I need a chance to catch up in this little department here called the Comptroller's Office. You can't be faint of heart and be the Comptroller for the state of Illinois at this time. Let me tell you, this is, sometimes I get up in the morning and it's like Joan of Arc. Here, we're going to go to battle. So we also have to commit to making structural changes to our Medicaid and our pension systems. Those are just the two biggest eaters in the budget. And Medicaid is going to grow bigger, and as we've seen, pensions will grow bigger as well because we have not done our job as far as the state of Illinois to do the funding that we needed. And I get really tired of people somehow, banging on the state employees who don't make that much money and who don't have such great pensions, and somehow, they're the criminals in this. They're the villains. No, they're not. They paid their share. The legislature, the governor, and all of us allowed all sorts of folks to tap into that system and to misuse it. And as a result, here we are. The pension system has to be looked at as well. They make up for more than 30% of our budget, and without changes, we're just going to be nibbling around the edges and not getting anywhere. And finally, I think we have to stop beating up on business and on employers and making their lives so miserable that they prefer to go to Indiana or out of the country, and they are lost to us. You have to provide some predictability for them. They can't be hanging out there saying, what are you going to do next to us, and when is it going to happen? Because when you have that kind of a situation and the risk is hanging over your head, you don't hire. You sit on your money and you wait to see if something good will come out of it. Now, there are not enough spending cuts or tax increases to make up for a stagnant economy. And frankly, we cannot tax the public any further. You can't bleed blood out of a turnip, and the public has been kicked around so much with tax increases. And I do encourage the governor, don't think in terms of borrowing. That's monopoly money, that's funny money, it's not real money. And you're gonna have to pay that back at interest rates, and all our money goes into interest. From the damaging discussion of a gross receipts tax to whacking employers with a tax hike, I think we've given businesses every reason in the world to leave Illinois. And we're paying the price because they got the hint. They're doing it. I mean, really, think about our geographic location and the transportation network that we have there. Yes, RTA. There you go. The city of Chicago, all of its resources, Illinois, it should be a destination for employers, and yet we've made it so miserable, they don't want to come, they don't want to stay. We need to stop the nonsense that scares them away. Now, let me tell you a little quickly about what we've been doing in the Comptroller's office for the good of the order. We've I think, come and stepped up to the plate. We've successfully passed direct deposit legislation that moves more vendors to electronic payment. Now, that ends the absurd practice of the state sending low-dollar interest checks to vendors. I mean, we have had checks go out to people as low as a nickel, and we paid the 40 cents discounted stamp to send it to them for a nickel, okay? What a waste. I mean, by moving to electronic payments, we will save more than $1 million annually in paper and postage alone. That should have been done 25 years ago, frankly. But we're there, the money will come faster when there is money, and it won't get lost. So that's pretty good. We also passed an agreement with the federal government where we collect each other's debts. And because we collect each other's debt, we will be able to raise more than $10 million annually in new revenue. That'll go to the state, and hopefully without raising taxes or fees. It's just going to come in there. We're launching a new initiative to help small businesses, for women and minority-owned businesses, to get more involved in the state bidding process, because it's hard to get involved in state business. What do you do? Where do you go? You call the state of Illinois? That's like calling a swamp. You know who to call and how to make it happen. We'll walk you through it, get you there, get you into bidding. We've committed to reducing our office footprint by 30% within 4 years through technology and electronic record keeping. And that will help us shed ourselves of literally tons of paper. I must have 30 to 40 years worth of paper in that office. I always worry that if I had to evacuate the office, if an emergency, I couldn't get people out of there because they'd be tripping over the filing cabinets and the boxes and the paper and you don't need all this in this world. This is the 21st century. If I can get the office up to the 20th century, I'm going to feel pretty darn good. And if we can hit 21st, wow, that's going to be something. So we've launched a transparency project that's going to result in our office website becoming a true portal, I think, for all state contracts and financial information. So you in the press, you want to know who's doing what to whom and how they're doing it? One-stop shopping. You hit the controller's office, you're going to find out. Everybody's going to find out. It's going to all be out there as it should be. I think we've embarked on each of these initiatives with an eye toward the bottom line and commitment to ultimately saving tax dollars. And we're making some real headway. So now I'm going to stop talking since, I'm finally on a positive note as opposed to the first part of the speech. And I apologize for giving you any indigestion that you may be suffering after this wonderful meal here at Maggiano's. And I'm going to pass this on to Paul Green. And I ask you, as you ask questions and so on, to please resist the urge to blame the messenger. So thank you very much.
I've been around a long time, but I've never heard anyone working for the state known as a fiscal janitor. That is, there are more meanings to that than we can go on forever.
I clean up after people.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And we do have Representative Patty Bellick. Where are you, Patty?
There she is.
Right there. For you Southsiders, the granddaughter of the old Roman, the Comiskey's, which it should be still the name of that damn field.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It will always be Comiskey Park. Yay!
And one other pre-announcement, due to Ms. Topinka's presentation. On your way out, there'll be a small little flask of hemlock. And last but not least, we do have the famous Lawrence Massal from the Civic Federation here taking notes. All right. Number one, Ken Griffith.
Yes, sir.
Wolf Point Strategies. Please describe how our priorities. Give me two. Take two, okay? There's a lot of pressure. Please describe how our priorities are established for accounts payable. Were they what's the current average days past due?
Oh, well, unfortunately, or fortunately, if you will, that this is all, to a certain extent, subjective. We try and do it on a first-come, first-served basis or need. So if any organization is suffering hardship, and very often we'll get like a nursing home, a social service agency that's just hanging by its fingertips. And we do encourage them to call because we will try and push them up in the queue. However, it always has to be remembered, for everyone that we move up, someone gets moved down because there's just so many pieces of the pie. And I can't create pieces where there are none. Sometimes I feel like we're not even giving out pieces, we're giving out crumbs. Now, we're probably about 6 months now in arrears in terms of how long that we are in payments. But if we go into potentially double-dip recession, it could conceivably take us into 8 or 9 months in arrears. That just destroys the small business person. You can't take the journey with us. You can't carry the load that we put on you in waiting to be paid. So it's about right now it's about 6, maybe 6.5 months.
Comptroller Topinka, thank you for that short, snappy answer.
No.
All right. Diana Conley, where are you, Diana? Raise your hand. Cowards die many times. It's a good question. Will you explain how Illinois owes the federal government money? What didn't we do?
We owe the federal government money because we have to borrow it from the federal government, or we also have matching programs that we get from them. So there's a lot of interaction fiscally, and right now we do owe them $2 billion, and they want it now. Don't have it.
Here's a question from the old WGN man. Bob Manwith, where are you? Raise your hand. Bob, raise your hand.
There's Bob.
Over there. Are you working actively, she always works actively, for a constitutional amendment to combine the offices of Controller and Treasurer?
Yes. Actively working on it. Treasurer Dan Rutherford is also in agreement on this, and because both of us would be combining our two offices, and the functionality would be the same, but we would save $12 million a year in about 20% duplication of those two offices. We've already gotten the bill through the Senate. Senator Cullerton, the President of the Senate, has been very helpful on that front. And I think it went out almost unanimously, if not unanimously, to move it over to the House. Therein lies our problem. The Speaker of the House is not fond of the idea, and he has the bill bottled up in committee. So if you have any relationship with Speaker Matt...
Sure, everybody here does, no problem.
All right, if any of you have any kind of a relationship with Speaker Madigan, good, bad, or indifferent, you may suggest to him that this would be easy pickings where you're not hurting anybody directly. You won't even feel it. All we'll do is save $12 million. It's not going to hurt your social service agency. It will put $12 million back into the soup here. For gosh sakes, let it go. And I appreciate what he says about oversight and his being on the Constitutional Convention and all that. But the days of that are over. We have the oversight. It's time to bring them together, and we're going to do what we have to do to get that passed.
By the way, the kicker is, if it's ever done, Mr. Rutherford and Mr. Topinka will meet at high noon on Cermak Road, 10 steps and fire. Okay. The aforementioned Lawrence Massal, right over there, from the Civic Federation. In recognition of your controller's reports finding that Illinois casino gambling revenues represent $548 million in total state revenue, what impact do you see of the proposed casino and video gaming expansion for Illinois? You thought it'd be easy, huh?
Yeah, well, there's parts of that bill that I like. There's parts of that bill that I don't like. I don't like the video poker thing at all, because I don't think you can, and I agree with Chairman Jaffe of the Gaming Committee on that. I don't know how you regulate that, because it'll be all over the place, and that has always been of interest to the mob, and I would hate to think that they would get their little mitts on that. I think other things could come to pass that would make some sense. People sometimes question slot machines at the racetracks. One, it can be regulated. Two, over and above the gambling situation, it supports a multi-billion-dollar agricultural industry in this state. We don't see it here, okay, but because we don't have all the farms around here. But the state is still majority farms, and those farms are single. They generate the single biggest product, ag products. That's what we export. I mean, we're making money off of that. So if we can keep horse racing going and attracting better horses, better handles, and things of this sort, that makes some sense. I'm a little queasy about slot machines at airports. I don't know that we want to look like Las Vegas or Reno. It's going to be a hard nut for Governor Quinn to have to pick and choose where he's going to go. And then I think you also run into the problem of, is this going to generate as much money as they said it's going to generate? For the simple reason you're going to start cannibalizing each other. I mean, if you've got casinos everywhere and riverboats everywhere and horse racing and lottery and off-track betting and all of that going on, there is kind of a finite gambling dollar. And after a while, you know, it will be cannibalization, and you're not gonna make the money. But Chicago definitely needs a casino. Chicago is a world-class city, it's gotta act like one. World-class cities have casinos. Good casinos, real fancy, you know, with chandeliers like this, and nice carpeting, and Italian food, and all that good stuff.
And Bette Midler.
And Beth Midler,
Yes.
okay.
All right. Sean McCready, where are you, Sean? And why aren't you a member of the City Club?
Just started coming this year.
All
They'll
right.
take your check at the door, so no problem.
Works for St. Ignatius College Prep. Someone said, oh, boy, this is going to be a tough crowd for you.
That's a very good school, by the way, very good.
She endorses St. Ignatius.
It's
Okay.
very good, turns out some great people. It really does, very smart.
That's not the question.
All right, I'm sorry.
This is from Sean, that guy over there.
Okay,
We view our budget as a statement of mission. Nice little lead-in.
that's good.
As such, what has been the state's mission that got us here? And two, what does our mission need to be to get us out? In 25 words or less.
Now, you heard the speech, that kind of covered some of that. The biggest thing on the mission right now is so simple and so plain, it just sounds like I'm not giving you a great deal of thought with this. No new spending, okay? You have to have no new spending. You have to keep a flat budget, because that's the only way we're going to catch up and dig our way out of this. We cannot tax people anymore. I suppose you can try, but that's ridiculous. And you cannot keep borrowing, because that's ridiculous too, and I keep urging the governor not to even look in that direction. You have to do it the way a family would do it. You're gonna have to slog this out and not spend what you don't have. That's not exciting, that's not interesting, but that's the fact, and that's our mission.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have two questions left that are, shall we say, intertwined.
Oh, my.
Don't take your gift yet. You haven't.
No, I'm not.
But before we get there, we have State Representative Ed Sullivan. Ed, where are you?
Oh! That's a really good show.
Everyone knew that was coming, right? Okay. Chairman, State Controller Topinka. We have
Yes,
two
sir.
questions from Frank Paul, from Jane Johnson, and of course from Mark. Was it Mark? Give me Waymueller. Close enough.
Das ist a good German name, yeah, okay. All right, sorry.
Remember,
Little
you're
play
from-
for the Germans.
You're from the Twin Cities of Berwyn and Cicero, so don't get carried away with the German stuff. Who do you like as the Republican nominee for president in 2012, leaving out yourself?
Well, there's so many people in it, I've considered it. You know, I mean, my gosh, anybody can go out to Iowa and sign up. I mean, I don't know that we've necessarily even seen all the folks who may be running. I mean, there still may be some folks out there who have not started to run. Just with the current field, I find that, you know, the former governor of Utah, Governor Huntsman, is probably about the closest to my way of thinking and doing things. He's having a hard time kind of establishing himself, but I like that. Everybody knows, and I make no bones about it, I'm a social moderate and a hardline fiscal conservative. No new spending, all right? No spending.
The last question, by the way, with a smiley face, which is something
That's cute.
we normally don't have. And Jane Johnson, where are you?
She's not killing the messenger. I love her.
There she is, right back
Okay,
there.
thank you.
Luckily, you made the room. Okay, here we go. Less than 10 words.
Yes, sir.
Are you Judy Baar Topinka?
I
going
was
to
when
run-
I looked.
Are you Judy Baar Topinka? Let me finish. Going to run for governor? If not, why?
Well, I tried that once because somebody had to take out Blagojevich, and golly knows, I really felt that I could do it, but it's pretty hard to run against 27 million of corrupt dollars. So what can I say? But you learn a lot from it, and I love these fiscal offices, and I think I'm going to stay put because there is so much to do here. There really is so much to do here. And sometimes these offices are not valued, and people kind of start because then they start running for other things and they don't pay attention. I have always found the treasurer and the controller's office to be extremely interesting, And so much of the state is based on what goes on there. If you have a good treasurer and a good controller, you'll have a better state. And I really feel we can make a difference here, and that's what I want to make. So I'm staying put.
Yes.